find yourself thinking, life's fine, nothing wrong with my life. Just thought it might be, a bit more interesting than it is. It's kind of fine, but do you ever find yourself thinking that? Thinking that there has to be more to life than the way you're feeling right now. That whilst you don't have a bad life, whilst there's nothing really wrong with your life, that it's nowhere near as right as it could be. That the life you're living is fine, but not fantastic. And the life you really want to be living is your best life. If you find yourself feeling that way, what you really need to do is get back to basics. Go back to working out what it is you really want from life. Now, so often, when you live a busy, active life and you have a myriad of commitments and things pulling you in lots of different directions, that's the first thing to go. The first thing to go is having the time to think. Having the time to think full stop, let alone having the time to think about what it is you want. But if you find yourself in one of those lacklustre moods where life's feeling a bit like that, finding some time to think is the first step to pulling yourself out of that rut. And what you want to be thinking about is, what is it that would give me a lift? What is it that I would like to be doing with my life? What is it that I could be doing? And just let those ideas float around and see which comes and lands. The first step to living your best possible life is to know what you want. But if you can't make the time to stop and think, you'll never know what you want. Now, one of the ways that I find easiest to cut through the clutter and cut through the mental sort of fog of there's so many different options and how could I choose, and then choosing becomes too hard and so life carries on sort of pretty much the same as it's always been, is to ask my clients, if you had a fairy godmother, what 3 things would you wish for? If you had a fairy godmother, what 3 things would you wish for? Now, what I find is this sort of supposition of magic clears the mind brilliantly. Now, obviously you don't have a fairy godmother, but the very fact that you don't, and it is a sort of a magical statement, liberates people from thinking about the constraints of their reality and allows them to think much more openly about what is possible in their life. Now, once you've had a chance to make some time to think and to ask yourself that magical question, what would I wish for if I could wish for anything? Then it's time to start making some baby steps in that direction. When we're in a rut, getting out of that rut can just feel overwhelming. And when you discover that there's a significant change you want to make in your life, making that change can feel impossible. The question I always ask my clients is, what could you do that would take you 1 step closer to the life you really want to be living? Not what could you do that would take you 10,000 steps closer. Not what would you do that could turn your life around overnight. Not what could you do that would be throwing out the old and bringing in the new instantly. Because all of those things, those grand gestures, tend to become overwhelming. What happens when we make these grand gestures and plans for change is all too often they become bigger than life itself. And the result is we become inert with fear and overwhelm and simply too much to do. If you can think about that as what would be 1 tiny step I could take, what would be 1 thing I could do that would take me closer, it suddenly simplifies things. It feels much, much easier to start getting what you want into your life. Now, when you've taken that step, take another. And when you've taken that step, take another. And when you've taken that step, take another, and so on, until you really start to feel that the life you wanted to be living is the life that you are living. I'm Domonique Bertolucci, and you've been watching DBTV, the place to go to feel good about who you are and the life you live. If you've liked this video, like it and share it with your friends. I'll be back again next week with another episode, and until then, take care and remember, it's not about having it all, it's about having the things that matter.